Welcome to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, where history meets prophecy. Welcome, Officer Charmaine. I'm Elder Michael.
And I am Officer Charmaine.
Yes. And today we're going to make the case for August as Freedom Month. This is a very exciting as usual and very educational. It gives a new perspective to an old story. I'll let you take it from here, Officer Charmaine.
Yeah, look. We've got our t-shirts on.
Oh, yes.
400.
Well, you look better than me in yours, so I'm not going to show off.
Oh, we've got to show this. You know, we're preparing for
Excellent.
August. August begins tomorrow, and we have so much to cover. It's going to be such an exciting time. It is for us anyway, and I hope by the end of this presentation that you would be so excited to join us in this endeavor. So peace, everyone that is joining. Bella Quinn, Robin, Tina, Veronica, Herbert. Thank you guys for joining today. As usual, this is going to be an interactive session. So please make sure you put all your comments, all your questions into the comment section. Also, don't forget to share, subscribe if you haven't. Make a comment in the comment section at the front of this video. And if you are new and you would like to have more information or even join us, there is a sheet that you can fill out and somebody will get back to you. So we're going to have lots of fun.
Also, we could mention that for additional information on this subject matter, you can view our videos of the Israelite Nation web pages, YouTube pages. Yes. And but we appreciate your support, both with your commentary, your financial, etc. It's great to have you with us today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are going to begin talking about August, the case for August as Freedom Month. Now, let's take it back in time. With February, right?
Right.
Yes, welcome everyone. Those who just joined us, we are going to look at the case for August as Freedom Month. And we've got some interesting slides. We've got some discourse to go through. And like I said, please put your comments and your questions into the chat, and we're going to have lots of fun. Thank you, Patricia. We love these sessions too. So thank you so much. I hope you guys are really getting as much as possible out of this. And don't forget, even if you decide to review this later on, or if you have a question later on, put it in the chat. Or if there's something that you'd like us to look into or discuss, also add that to the comment section at the front, so that, maybe we have something prepared, or, maybe there's something that we would like to look into. So, yeah, give us your ideas.
Yes.
So we're going to start with the slides.
Yes, let's go with the first slide.
Yes, okay. So the case for August is Freedom Month. There is a group called Remember the 400. And as you see, we are wearing the t-shirts because we are preparing. Yeah. Now, over the next few weeks, and guys, please look out for this because it's very, very important. So over the next few weeks, for this year, we established a phenomenal event. And that is, we are going to have a flag raising in every single city where Remember the 400 has a head office. So you're looking at the UK, for example. Isn't that great? And it's not just a flag raising in the park or something. These have been done at city halls. And right. So we have the UK. The dates and time and location, that will eventually be on the website, rememberthe400.com, okay, where you can contact one of the representative of the branch, or you will see what the upcoming events will be. So, as I said, we have flag raising in the UK. We have flag raising in Atlanta, New York, New Jersey. Where else did I look? Oh, of course, Missouri, yes. And of course here in Toronto. So please look out for the date, time, and location, and make sure you come out and support us. And for those of you that are in Toronto, we have an event tomorrow. At what time is that? 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock, yes.
3 o'clock, 202 Bentworth and we are going to have our Black History Month, or shall I say Freedom Month.
Freedom Month.
Yes, Freedom Month kickoff.
Yes.
Now, why do we celebrate August as Freedom Month? First of all, it's important to establish the fact that many countries, especially in North America, looks at February as Black History Month. Okay, that's fine. You know, in the UK, we also have October as Freedom Month. Actually, it's the UK and all Europe, or most of Europe. They look at October as Black History Month. But what we're going to do today is look at some of the reasons why they are doing that, and the reasons why we think that maybe August is a better month. Well, August is a better month. I'm just telling you that. But yeah, we're going to have this discourse. So first of all, it is important to establish that from 1619, the first slave ships landed in the port of Point Comfort in Virginia. Right. So this was in North America. Yet in North America, as I mentioned before, we have the coldest and shortest month to represent us. And why is that? Well, according to this document here, the first slide here, the primary reason is because it was Abraham Lincoln's birthday on February the 12th and Frederick Douglass on February the 14th. Now, even though both of these individuals supposedly fought for the freedom of Black people, before that, it's how do you represent Black History Month before their births, right? We're looking at 1619. And that event took place in August. But there's a couple of points I want to point out about Abraham Lincoln, first of all. If we go to the next slide. So there was a letter that was written. This was the letter that was written to the American journalist and former New York Tribune editor Horace Greeley. And this was done in August 22nd. This was really quite interesting as well. I just discovered this today. So this was in August 22nd, 1862. And this is coming from Abraham Lincoln. And it says, "My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union." So his focus was just to save the Union, and is not either to save or to destroy slavery. So slavery was just a secondary concept to him, but his objective was really to save the Union. So he says here, "If I could save the Union without freeing any slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some slaves and leaving others alone, I would do that also." So what do you think of that? I'm not going to stare anybody's mind, but yes, Michael.
I see it as it's all about him. It's not about the slaves per se. It's a politician who is working to get elected or to get reelected. It has nothing to do with us, because from my perspective, I think we as a people would be entitled to make that decision for ourselves. Now, of course, they were slaves, they didn't have the right. But coming to today, we have an opportunity now to make a change, that makes a difference. And this is why we suggest August as Freedom Month, because so much attached to August, as we will explore in this process.
Yeah, and this is like really quite phenomenal, because when you look at it, you know, everybody's like, okay, you just toss up a date without really understanding the magnitude of that date or that time. Right? It has to have some type of significance. And this is what we're saying. And this is why we're looking at the month of August, because August has so many events that, you know, pertains to us, or pertains to the slaves or the children of Jacob. So this is what we're looking at. So Tina says that he didn't care about us one way or the other. Right? It's a political statement. It's a political move. Right? It was a means to an end. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So it was neither here nor there. It's like, it's a political move. Okay, what does it say? The true finding comes out about Abraham Lincoln and February as Black History Month. well, this is what we're going to establish, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have any bearings. Before Abraham Lincoln, before Frederick Douglass, why would you choose February? Why? As somebody mentioned earlier, the coldest and shortest month of the year. Is
Correct.
that really what we're worth?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. February is too cold. You know, that's right. We are the people of warmth. We are. I like that. I like that very much. Thank you, Patricia. All right. So there was another thing that I wanted to mention with regards to Abraham Lincoln. And this is not an attack on him. You know, he served his purpose and there were many things that he did which we benefit from. So it's not an attack on him. But I just want to show, you know, some of the things that we hailed him for, you know, as a hero, whereby we should probably be thinking twice about it. Right. So, moderator, if we can have the next slide. Now, this is the Emancipation Proclamation of 1862. Now, it says here, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all slaves in the United States. You remember those points that Lincoln had brought out? You know, if he didn't have to, he wouldn't. If he had to, he will. And if he can choose half and half, then that's what he would go with. Well, apparently, he went with the third option, right? So the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all the slaves in the United States. It rather declared free only those slaves living in states not under the Union control. Okay.
But what is most important here, Officer Charmaine, is it was beyond Abraham's Lincoln's capacity to make that freedom a reality. The key is that our Father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, he specified 400 years, and Moses prophesied that. And we will get to that, but I just want to bring that out, that Abraham Lincoln, regardless of his presidential capacity, did not have the power. And it's important that we understand this, because sometimes we look to the politicians to do things that we can do ourselves. So the God of Israel said 400 years. And if we came in 1619, then, and I remember when our elder Shadrach mentioned that way back, a lot of people were looking at him strange, like, what are you talking about? You know, but he proved his point.
It's really quite interesting, even how we are tied into that history. Yes. And as you said, when the elder was talking about this from way back when, and it's just like, went over my head, that's for sure. Right. But, you know, when it's, you know, as time went on, you see the prophecy unfolding and you see us in the picture. Yes. And you see how this month of August ties into who we are. It ties into our identity. And all these events that changed the course of history occurred during the month of August. Right. And these events were in direct correlation with, which is very important, guys, especially those from abroad, these events are in correlation with the United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada. Yeah. So we look at North America and the United Kingdom. And this is where our main branches have been established. And this is not an accident. Right. And we're going to show you that. It's so beautiful.
In addition to that, I would like our audience to see the hand of the God of Israel over all this event. It's a very comprehensive process, whether it happens in the UK, the US, or Canada. You know, it's all the New Egypt and with Assyria there, and all of these pieces will come together. It's beautiful. Look at the wisdom of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as it unfolds.
Exactly. All right, so the next slide.
Before we go, it says Tina is saying the goal was to save the Union. So fortunately, slaves in the non-union area were freed. Yes, there were a few.
Yes,
but we're not looking at one against the other. We want the entire family to be in harmony.
Yeah, but she makes a very fantastic point, because that was the Emancipation Proclamation. It was only those that were a part of the Union that were freed, and it's like all the other areas they just ignored.
Exactly.
You know? So it's not really a goal, or this is not really when we were freed, and it took years later before that actually took place.
Yes.
So yeah, you know, everyone looks at this, Emancipation Proclamation, You got to really look at that very closely. And
So
there's
the lesson from this experience is the strength is with us,
mm,
working together in harmony
yeah,
under the authority of our Father, and
exactly.
respecting the teaching of our elder the Supreme Council. Because
Mhm.
when we show respect, we
Yes,
demonstrate that we are deserving of respect ourselves.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the next slide.
We have a
What,
comment from Steve
yes.
Fields that says, as then as today, man will not save us. Finally, the truth about how Lincoln didn't do what he did for us, but for the betterment of the Union. And that is true because remember,
Yeah.
it's politics. He's there to do for the ones that are putting him in power, not for us per se, because
Mm-hmm.
we are just, what should we say, a fine print. Let's leave it at that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yes, well, thank you guys. Thank you for your comments. Please keep them coming. We're enjoying looking at them and reading them out to you. So
Yeah.
please keep them
Participation
coming.
is important.
Yes, very important. So, and you know what? This is what makes what we do very important as well and more enjoyable because it takes all of us and we all need to understand this so that we're on the right page and doing these things together in order to write history. Now, we are in the precipice of writing history right now. And so I hope that you guys will be joining us. Hopefully in 50 years' time, somebody would review this and say, yeah, it was those guys from Remember the 400 that,
Yeah.
that actually encourage all
Yeah.
these different states to, incorporate August as Freedom Month.
Right.
So,
And as this unfolds, you will see that we are building on the foundation that our elder Shadrach has laid.
yeah.
And we now, this is why you've heard us say so many times that this is the only organization where members are allowed to stand on our shoulders to achieve. Because
Mhm.
when one succeed, we
We
all
all
benefit.
succeed.
That's what we
Amen
need.
to that, Elder Michael. Thank you. That was well put. Well
Yes.
put. So, what about England? My
What
birthplace.
about England?
What about England? Let's look at the next slide.
Yes.
Okay. So, they celebrate Black History Month in October. But the funny thing is, when you go down to the second paragraph, it says the community celebrated in the UK. Okay, Black History Month celebrates African, Caribbean, and Asian communities, whereas the US is exclusively for the achievements of African Americans. Okay, when you look at this, you kind of get lost in that muddle. You get lost because you're incorporating all of these other communities and countries. So it's not really about the children of slavery, really. It's
Right.
about, everybody in their community and culture. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But if I looked at October, this does not represent who I am. It does not signify, what we've gone through as a people. And this is not about us. It's about so many different peoples
To
of the
put it in
world.
perspective, we have to remember that we're dealing with a Christian institution, and they cannot come together, right? So you get the US doing one thing, the UK doing something else. We are the only ones now under the authority of our Father that can bring this to any form of common sense, if you will. And because we committed a crimes against him and we were punished, now we have to be reconciled unto him, and so on and so forth. So I like the fact that they're distorted. I like the fact that there's no harmony between the different Christian groups. The point is, it gives us an opportunity to step to the forefront and demonstrate who we are and who we serve.
Yes, and even going to what you said, it is important to note that the predominant progenitors, which is us, today's black man. I'm going to use the euphemism black man throughout this because it's a lot of people relate, but I just want to bring this point out clearly who we're speaking about, right? The children of Jacob, those that were brought into the North America or the Americas by ships, right? So we have today's black men, which were captured from Africa, taken by the Mohammedans and sold to the Christians, and then brought to America, known as the New Egypt. And this was done by ships, and they were sold for bondmen and bondwomen. And
Right.
this first took place, as we mentioned before, in 1619. Now, we're going to
Yes.
be a little bit repetitive, but it's important. We always say that, oh, we need to know about our history. But the problem is, if we don't repeat these things, we're going to forget. And if you look at the scriptures, you'll see that things are repeated over and over and over again because we have a very bad memory.
And
And if we don't remember,
what time did they step off the
who else is
slave
going
ship, Officer Charmaine?
It was August.
August.
August. This
August.
is the beginning. August marks the beginning and the
Yes.
end of our slavery.
Right.
Okay, beginning and the end. So you're going to
Yes.
see these dates, and it's so incredible. So please, guys, remember these dates are being repeated, and it's not accidental. This is a deliberate move because we need to remember this. It
Yes.
is so pivotal.
And
But
again, if we look at the hand of the God of Israel over, this, don't look at just the confusion. There's always a reason for everything. So try to put it together and knit the pieces together, and you will see wisdom.
okay, you know what? Okay. Such clear explanation of misunderstanding of history. Thank you, Elder Michael and Officer Charmaine, for this discussion and knowledge.
Right.
And thanks so much. Here in America, we know so little about our brethren in the UK. That's
right.
a really good point. And this is, we've got to bring everybody together. And this is part of the purpose of Remember the 400.
Harmony.
Bring everyone together.
Yes.
Bring it. Yes, absolutely. And it says, if our forefathers wasn't disobedient and followed the God of Israel's instructions, we wouldn't have to go through slavery and being so hated by the world. You are so correct. This is our fault. We have to take ownership, right?
Yes.
And you'll see that these slides are deliberately put in such a way not to infuriate, but to help us understand and recognize not just who we are, but who helped us throughout this journey.
That's right.
And going to your point, Elder Michael, if we look at the next slide, dear moderator.
Yes. There it is.
From the scriptures, right? Yes. From the scriptures. Let's start here. We covered this a few weeks ago, right? Yes. We covered the King James Version of the Bible. Yes. One of the things we noticed is that the Bible was finally published in 1611.
Right.
And over 7 years later, ...
Yes. They've stepped off the slave ship onto the shores of Virginia. And you have to ask yourself why and how did this happen? But you recognize that the God of Israel is so wise, even though it hurts him to see us in such a position. And it hurts to punish him, like your mom or your dad. When they're punishing you for your misbehavior, they sometimes feel that pain as well. So as it with the God of Israel. But he never surrendered, I should say, authority. Yes, you were sold.
But Elder Michael, this is so beautiful because I always hear, especially as when I was a new mother, it's like, well, there's no instruction manuals for bringing up your children.
Oh,
but
yes, there is.
He prepared an instruction manual.
That's right.
Just before we went into slavery. This was the first recorded event that historically recorded event. I've read all these different things. Well, there were black people in North America way before. There were black people here. That's irrelevant. This event is recorded worldwide, right? Yep. Worldwide. This is known by everyone. And you look at the beauty of the process, 1611, over 7 years later, what happened?
But one of the most important contributions is the name of the guy who did the job. King James.
Yes.
Right? So, of course, King is not part of his name. That's his title. But it shows the power that he had in order to legally describe these.
Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just anybody. It was taken from the authority, from the top.
Right.
No
one can touch that legally. That speaks to the wisdom of the God of Israel. Because now when, again, the first slave stepped off the shore in Virginia, the ship in Virginia, they are Israelites, Jacobites, if you will, because they still have the covenant that is valid, intact. They have not, even though they've been sold, they have not been given away. The title still remains in the hand of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's
Absolutely.
powerful. Our heritage points to our Father. We know who He is. He knows who we are. You
And
can't.
that's why he's given us the instruction right from the get-go, guys. Go
Yeah.
back and look at those videos. Look at the videos that's on Friday and Saturday. You'll see the same thing over and over and over and over again. Our prophecy and our history written in that same book, King James.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Charmaine Williams is saying that a term used in the UK, they call us BAME. Is it BAME or BAMI? I'm not sure. Black
Bang.
African Minority Ethnic Group. It's frustrating because we should not all be classified or classed them on the
Under the
same.
same umbrella,
Yeah.
when our history is oppressive.
Right.
Is
But
unique.
again, I
Every,
don't blame them for using.
I completely agree, though.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's why that's why it's so difficult for us to actually speak our story, because once we start speaking, we get lumped in with different groups,
Yeah.
different groups, different groups. It's like, and then when it's no longer about us and it becomes about everybody, and we get lost in that shuffle. I
Well,
completely agree.
and we have to learn to work together. Again, we don't always
Mm.
have to agree 100%, but if you agree with 70% or even 50%, what's wrong with that? And then as you continue to grow in the family, you would see exactly the rest of it, and then gradually you work your way up. But for people to say, well, I don't agree with what that's saying, no, let's work together.
Yeah.
Let's build on what our elder has established. Let us, as I said, stand on each other's shoulder and achieve loyally
Yeah.
and harmony. Don't just try to take advantage of an opportunity and then stab somebody in the back and run away. That doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to one of the first prophecies. Someone says Tina says the
Bible has all the
Bible, all the
instructions.
instructions we need. Yes. Believers' instructions before leaving Earth. Yes.
Exactly.
I heard that as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Basic. I actually heard basic instructions before leaving Earth, which is supposed to be the acronym for Bible. Anyways,
Yeah.
but
Before going into the earth is more what I know what they're saying.
yeah. So let's
Yeah.
look at the next slide, which actually comes directly from the scriptures, and it says here, and this is part of the prophecy. They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." Somebody mentioned earlier that we do have a short-term memory, and
Yes.
within a generation that information is gone from us. And we've even mentioned that when Ezra and Nehemiah, when they came back from Babylon after 70 years, they couldn't remember anything. They had to have the books to remind them. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
that this is what's happening. And for they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederates against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites. You remember we read earlier who sold us into captivity?
Right.
Of
And
Moab and Hagares,
Hagarines.
Baal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines and the inhabitants of Tyre.
Yeah. And those names will change today.
They've changed over time.
Now you have the Khazars, you have the Muslims or the Islamic people, and Tyre could be um, the children of Europe now under different names, Asher and whatever. But the point is, they are confederates. They work together, and we are their, what's the proper word? They stock, right? It is the children of slavery that work together to build for them, to make them rich and powerful. This is what we have to understand. Why do we make other people rich and we remain poor? It doesn't make sense. If we could work together as one man and one woman, or we could build a family that the world would be proud of, because we have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the rest of the world doesn't have. Simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like what Patricia has here. It says it's safe to say that the God of Israel used the Gentiles to follow through on our punishment.
Yes. Yes. Someone has to punish us.
Yeah.
And they were perfectly prepared to do it. Some may argue they took it to extreme, but you can't be the bad guy and then say, well, I don't want you punishing me that badly. It's just that you can't be the criminal and sit in the judgment seat. So that's another issue as well, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and C. Field says that we have been called everything under the sun except for the children of truth.
Right.
You're absolutely correct.
Because
they
we did not
have
display.
erased us from memory.
Yeah.
Erased us. And we've erased ourselves from memory.
Right.
Remember, we call ourselves Gentiles, apparently. Well, somebody does.
Somebody said I was told that King James was black, and there are two King James. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. But even the point here is, it's not about him, whether he's black or white. It's about him and what he did for us at a time when we could not do it for ourselves. Let's get the color and look at the spirit.
Yeah, the one thing that, especially coming into this nation, which I've learned to really appreciate, is that we need to be careful not to get lost in that color war, right? Elder Michaels often says that it's not about color, it's about the truth, right? It's not about, how you look, it's about the truth. And what difference does he make, whether he was black, white, polka dot? What difference does it make? The point is, he has provided instructions, whether he knew it or not. Most likely he didn't. But the fact is, he's just converting from one place to another, from one language to another. It was just an attempt to look and see what is there. Only later on did people try to change it. But, making him black doesn't make him better or worse. It makes him the same person who he is. You know what I mean? It's not about the color. It's not about the color. And
I
don't believe he was, but according to a lot of according to the documentations, he is not. But there are people that were specifically listed as black. And for example, there was Queen Charlotte. She was black. She was married to King George, but he was not. And with regards to no, he was King James I of England and the VI of Scotland.
Right. But here's the deal. Which so-called white person, white man or woman, did not have black ancestors?
So, exactly. Do we really want to go there?
Yeah. But my point is, why are you following Christianity? Because that's where this black and white issue started.
That's what they do. They took all the saints and turned them white. And it's like, we don't want to take everybody that we think worked in our favor and then turn them black, because that defeats the purpose, right?
There was no white and so-called black man before the 15th century Christian Spain. So why are you allowing them to teach you and guide you? Why not say the God of Israel took the dirt, the blackest soil, and made man and woman? That's what we should have embedded in our conscience, not what somebody else is saying.
I think, and even another way of looking at it, if we really want to get specific, he took a Gentile.
Yeah.
He took a Gentile. There you go.
Right.
A Gentile.
And we made it clear that it doesn't matter who or what you look like. It's a matter of how you serve.
Amen. And that is the bottom line.
Yeah.
This is the bottom line. And this is why we're here today. Right.
That is why Abraham Lincoln didn't care whether the slaves were free or not free, because he was serving his chosen, the ones that helped him to be elected. So take it from him and let us do something similar. Let us work together in harmony. And what is there, whether it came from someone that's purple or someone that's green, as long as it serves us. Yes. Let us give thanks to the God of Israel. Let us give thanks to Elder Shadrach for being obedient. This is what we're talking about. And don't follow other folks. Lead. It's the key.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Adam, Esau, David, Jacob, all white men. Really?
Again.
Do we have to go there?
Ebenezer can't hear. Ebenezer needs to have circumcised ears, because Ebenezer cannot understand what we're saying.
I would highly suggest that you go and look at some of the other videos and then you come back with your statement, because we've proven time and time again, if you go to Genesis right at the very beginning, the God of Israel, he bent down, he took soil, the best soil, the darkest soil, to make Adam.
Here's the deal. Do you see that cross next to Ebenezer? That's why he can't understand. Ebenezer, get rid of the cross and come and serve the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Get the 7-branch candlestick and let they be truth, so that they may be light, so that understanding could be prevalent.
Yeah,
Case closed.
I think that court cross is causing a blockage.
Yeah. Okay.
Anywho,
Let's go to the next slide.
yes. Okay, so let's look at the case for August. The next slide, which is the case for August. So here we're saying that August marks a journey from slavery to freedom.
Yes.
And if you go to Virginia, this is the little plaque that's there, and it talks about who the first slaves and what they did.
Right.
And this was during the time of 1619. Okay. Right. I just want to read this little thing that I have here. It says, let us start from the beginning. August the 20th, 1619, the first Africans captured from Niger, Sierra Leone, the Gold Coast, and Angola, and suffered harrowing ordeals, arrived at Port Comfort, the coastal port in the English colony, known today as Fort Monroe in Hampton, Virginia. And we were there in 2019 to mark 400 years. Okay, so they arrived in the English ship, the White Lion, and were sold in exchange for food. Some were transported to Jamestown, where they were sold again. 22 years later, in 1641, Massachusetts was the first colony to legalize slavery by statute. So this was a really important point. And I wanted to go down to this next part because I thought this was really quite interesting, especially where we are today. It says here, the campaign to abolish the slave trade began in 1783, driven by an event involving a slave brought to Canada by an American loyalist, Lieutenant. You know what? Actually, before we go there, I just want to point out just a little bit of prophecy, and then we're going to go to what this gentleman did for the slaves. Right. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll see this.
Deuteronomy 28.
Yes. Okay. So what we're looking at, remember, this is about history meets prophecy.
Right.
Again, history meets prophecy. I've given you a bit of history. Where is this? How does this correlate to the scriptures? How does this correlate to the prophecy that was written in the scriptures? And this is the beautiful part. I always remember this, when Elder did his lesson. I think it was the Bible and the Black Man, when he did the seminar, the Bible. And, he really emphasized on Deuteronomy 28, where we're coming from. Mm-hmm. So, as you said, Elder Michael, history confirms that only one nation, which is the Israelite nation, was transported by ships and sold into slavery.
Right.
Okay. And this is confirmed by Deuteronomy 28. And guys, remember, if you have any questions or concerns about this, please let us know.
Now, we're not saying, Officer Sherman, let's make it clear that we're not saying that they were not slaves, but we're saying one nation, the entire nation, from king to the man begging in the street. That's why one nation isn't bold, so that people can understand everyone was made slaves. So that's the difference. Yeah. Right.
And taken by ships. How many nations in the world do you know this happened to?
Exactly.
How many?
None
taken
of it.
By ships. Yeah. Over the course of almost 400 years, taken by ships into the land of their captivity. And according to Deuteronomy 28, 36 to 37, it says, the Lord shall bring thee, that's Israel, and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. So this is not going back into the old Egypt that was, just a few hours away from, from Israel at the time, from Jerusalem. This is going by ships. Your fathers never knew this place. Your forefathers, they never knew this place that you were taken to, right? So think about it. This is like really deep, guys. Just think about it. They didn't know. They've never known these people or places. It wasn't known. America was not known during this time. So, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods. Wood, which is the god of wood,
Cross.
and which is the god of stone.
Same cross. I don't know.
Oh, you got
Oh,
the
you
black
can call it
stone.
you can call it a
You got
cube.
the black stone, right?
The
You got
cube, yeah, the
that
cube.
lies in the cube. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which is still a
think
cross.
about it, guys. Wood
It's
and
still a cross.
stone. These are the gods that you're serving now. If you're
Right.
not part of the Israelite nation, you're probably serving one of these.
Yeah.
I'm just showing you this is the reality. It's the facts. You know, I'm not making this up. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So when people say you've been called names, then you could understand where the prophecy comes from, right? Ebenezer says, your own people led you into captivity. We have already made that point.
You know what? Yeah, well, yeah, the people that look like us. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank
People
you.
that look like us. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
remember, not all people the same color. Not all black people are the same people.
Right.
Yep. And we've made that point several times already as well.
But thank you for reminding us, Ebenezer.
Oh, it's a good point, though. It's a very good point.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah.
That's why our own people are leading us out into freedom. That's why August is Freedom Month. That's why we put up the flag of freedom at this time of the year. That's why Elder Shadrach taught us how to do these things. So it's not that we're blaming other people. We blame ourselves for our own disobedience. Now we know that we made wrong. This is why we came back and we reconciled with our Father. We apologized for our mistakes, and He accepted our apology. That's why we keep the feast of dedication of the altar unto Him at new moon. This is why we glorify Him in song and dance. So yes, this is good to know. We made mistakes. We also now are correcting those mistakes and glorifying the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. No longer will we serve the God of Christianity or Islam, the ones who enslaved us, right? Amen. So we got it covered this time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay, it says, they were not our people. Yes, thank you. Remember, the Egyptians served the dead. Exactly. The children of Israel served the living God. Yes,
however,
absolutely. We came out.
That is true. But we followed them. We followed the Egyptians. We
followed their ways. Yes, we followed the ways of the Hamites. We followed the ways of, we were among the people. We were among, the people of the land, the Africans that lived in the land. We were among them, right? So, we lived among them. We lived among the Egyptians. We lived among all these people. But they I remember Elder Andor did a lesson, and it was such a great lesson. It was like, people talking about going back to Africa and being, African and, going back into this spirituality and whatever. And it's like, the Egyptians are not helping us. Nobody helped us when we went into captivity. The Ethiopians never helped us. They didn't help us when we went into captivity. Who helped us? Did the South Africans help us? No. Did the Ugandans help us? Nobody helped us when we were taken into captivity. Nobody cried for us when we were gone. We were gone for 400 years. And that was like, wow. Everybody wants to be Egyptian now, and wear the Ankh and these different cross. No. Yes. They didn't cry for us. I'm sure some of them were relieved that we were gone.
But there is now an opportunity for the world to benefit even greater from our freedom, for our celebration in the month of August, how we will glorify the God of Israel. And all those people, even the descendants of the ones that enslaved us, we are welcoming them to come. Hold hands with us and glorify the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, because they too are slaves. The only difference is we knew and they don't.
Yeah, it's a very sad moment. It's a very sad moment. It's very humbling, right? But as I always say, if you're going to hold on to this truth, you're going to have to remember the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifference. Yes. This is what we are about. Where we weren't, we didn't just float from the sky and just ended up where we ended up. we would never have gone into slavery if we were obedient to our Father, the God of Israel. And that is the bottom line. You know, if we were obedient, we would not be in this situation today.
Right. And even in our obedience, we've demonstrated that, okay.
So Ebenezer says, okay, my bad. I thought this was a black supremacist channel. We told you, we're not about that. You know, we're about celebrating.
Ebenezer, you are welcome to hold hands with us and serve the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
All people
We don't deal with skin color.
Yeah, we don't. We're about the truth. The truth is paramount, and it's above all things. Above all things. All right. So let's look. Okay. Deuteronomy 28:68. We're going back to this. Remember, it says here, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. As we said before, we never went into Egypt the first time with ships.
That's right.
And we never went into Egypt again, unless it was a choice that we walked there or whatever. But this time, it's saying that you shall go into Egypt again with ships.
That's right.
By the way, whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. No more. We're never going to see the land again. The land of, you know, it wasn't like the time when Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt and into the promised land. It was, we're not going to see that again. That is not going to happen again. So all those guys, I'm afraid that if you are going back there for whatever reason, then you've missed this piece. Yeah. You've missed this piece, right? Because it says, you know, just because we have the means today to run over there.
Right.
According
and you know what? We can make that classic distinction because if we have the spirit of understanding, we're not even visiting the stores. You know, let them be there and let them go through what they have to go through. But we give thanks to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not only for his wisdom,
his wisdom, for his guidance, with us so that for we can gain the spirit of understanding. Because obviously he has mercy upon us, and that's why we're able to do this today. Yeah. And we haven't been wiped out of existence. You know, we are survivors. We are survivors of that atrocity. This is what we are, and this is what we should look at. You know, if anything at all, we are survivors of this. And this is why we have to turn and say, thank you, God of Israel, because many of our people did. So it says, thou shalt see unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So this is where we are. This is prophet that we're talking about today. That 400 years.
The internet is acting up.
Okay. All right. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here, but as we can, keep your questions coming in and your comments.
Okay. So can we go to the next slide?
Yes. Okay. So as we mentioned before, this started somewhere, and this is why it's important. You know, we're not because they all play a part in this, and it's so phenomenal. You know, it really is so incredible that I'm actually really quite speechless. Actually, I'm really humbled right now, even just thinking about the nature of this. You know, when I came into the nation almost 30 years ago, you know, I asked our elder to come with me to England, right? And he came, and today we have a branch in England. But you look at this, right? Because as we said before, we have North America, which includes Canada and the United States, and even, you know, the Caribbeans and South America. And you have this, as with Israel today, we have it starting in Canada. Okay, so we look at this individual, John Graves Simcoe, Canada. The Act Against Slavery in 1793 was passed by the local legislative assembly, and it was the first legislation to outlaw the slave trade in a part of the British Empire. Could you imagine? It started here in Canada,
Yeah.
where the Israelite nation started. Guys, look at we don't believe in coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. That is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Lieutenant John Graves Simcoe. He was a British Army general and the first Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada from 1791 to 1796 in southern Ontario. So this is where, we are now. And look at that. This is just awesome.
Yes.
So, so as mentioned, this was the first time that this happened. Guys, what do you think about that? Put some sevens and some fires. Help us to understand that you're seeing this wonderful correlation between the Israelite nation starting the Israelite nation in Canada and John Graves Simcoe being one of the first to
again to your point, Officer Charmaine. I think if we start to look, as we said at the beginning, of the comprehensive picture and see the hand of the God of Israel in this. Remember, all of this occurred at a time when there was an opportunity for Canada to shine. I mean, dealing with the Underground Railroad, for example. So you can see that this is an opportunity for mercy to be revealed, right? That's why I tell people that despite our challenges, the God of Israel has not forgotten his people. That's why what James did, the King James did, when he published those scriptures and had everything in place when the first slave stepped off the ship, very important point, legally, culturally, and especially spiritually, because here's Canada at the border of Egypt, at the border of the new Egypt. Very significant. We have to look at the comprehensive picture, and then we see the wisdom of the God of Israel. That is our inspiration. Now we hold hands together in harmony and glorify his holy name. That's the key.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I just want to say that, and it's good to put this in perspective. Like I said, if you use your mind, it's like, I'm a very visual person, and I know that many people are. But if you use your mind and you think about the treatment that was endured by the black man, it was cruel. And the attack on his blackness and identity was horrendous. He not only witnessed the rape of his mother, his wife, his sister, his daughters, his aunts, he too was subjected to brutal force, emasculation, degradation, humiliating oppression. He went through this. He suffered. His women suffered. The women around him suffered. And you imagine someone going through that. It is hard not to want to revolt. And in doing that, we have had many people that have tried to revolt. And in saying that, one such revolt occurred around August. This is August again. This was August the 21st, 1831. And this revolt was led by Nat Turner in Southampton County, again in Virginia. Virginia is a key place. Remember that.
Right.
Again, no coincidence. And this revolt resulted in a frenzied murder of 120 slaves and 3 black people. 120. They just went mad. They went insane, killing our people because of this incident. But you imagine what we were going through. And they expected us to sit there and take it. That was the hard part. But no, Nat Turner, he led a revolt against this. And unfortunately, he was betrayed by his own, which happens time and time again. We always look at Jesus the Christ with Judah. He was, Judas. So he was betrayed, and you see it throughout history, unfortunately. He was betrayed by his own. But he led a revolt, which took place in August again. Like I said, August has many, many dates. And what we're going to go through is just the pinnacle of some of the dates that actually took place, that occurred.
The biggest revolt is coming up on the next slide. And you're going to find this guy, a very smart and brilliant guy. There he is, right?
Yeah. This was a sad one. This was a sad one, but it was very interesting.
No, this I think is
Yeah.
amazing. This is
Yeah.
very exciting for me
Yeah.
personally, because here's a man that was specifically chosen, did not look like me, was born when? In the month of August, right?
Yes, that was a really good point.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Who
was born
bring
in
forward an opportunity, not just on the street corners, legally, right? Signed off by whoever the legal royalty was at that time in his land. And you have to ask yourself, why would a man like this, at a time when people that look like me were being oppressed, take on that responsibility to
Yes.
put our interest, my interest first, ahead of his own? And
Yes.
it's fascinating. Like I said before, we have to look at the wisdom of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We cannot look at the color of one's skin. We
Yeah.
have to see better and
Yes.
bigger than that.
Yeah, and as I said, this is one of the reasons why we deliberately chose these individuals. Actually, it wasn't even a deliberate act. They actually fell into August, right? Into the month of August, right?
Yeah,
And, we always get this, and that's why I'm saying, why would you want to cut everybody black? Think about what you're saying.
right.
And it is quite, it's really, again, quite humbling to see how many people of different nations helped us,
Yeah,
it is, even looking at, Cornelius, he wanted to, serve the God of Israel. He wanted to serve the God of Israel so badly. And look what he did. This is something that was written in the book. So when we're not judging people by their color, by their nation, or by their race or whatever, we're judging them. We're not even judging them, but it is based on the content of their hearts. And this is according to the scriptures. It's not according to what Elder Michael and I say, or even Elder Shadrach.
right.
It's according to what the scriptures are saying. Whoever wants to serve the God of Israel, please, you
Yeah.
become my brother, my sister, our brother and sister, come and join us. This is what it's about, serving the God of Israel in spirit and in truth. That is first and foremost.
So the question then is, how did this happen? Because we know the God of Israel doesn't work with the flesh per se. He goes with the spirit to the heart.
Right.
So whatever was done, here is a man, doesn't look like me, because when I couldn't do what he did, he stepped.
Right.
So that spirit then must be one that came from the God of Israel to
Yeah.
do a job that didn't look like even the vessel in which that spirit resided.
Yeah.
These are the things that should make you stop and think, so that you can get beyond the physical state of mind today and glorify the God of Israel for his wisdom.
Exactly. It says this is from Patricia, there are so many strangers that came out of Egypt with the children of Israel. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not about color.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is
Yeah.
not, guys.
And
Remember,
Solomon,
it's
read
not about
Solomon's
color.
prayer.
Yes.
Solomon's prayer, 1 Kings 8. He
Yes.
talked about that.
Yeah.
Because he said the world, the people from everywhere will
Yep.
hear of your mighty name and will search for the truth and come and serve you. And
Yeah.
we want that to happen as well. This is why we want to use this presentation and all the others as an inspiration for others.
Exactly.
To see. Yeah.
Exactly.
And our arms are open to everybody. I don't care what you look like or how much money you have. It doesn't make any difference.
Right, it doesn't. I mean, it would help, but okay, whatever.
Every little bit helps.
Yep. Paul Morgan says, great information. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, guys, for listening in. Once again, this is History Meets Prophecy, and we are going through the case for August as Freedom Month.
Right.
And right now, we're looking at William Wilberforce.
Right.
Now, William Wilberforce, the slavery passed or helped to pass the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833. Now, this came into force on the August the 1st, 1834. Okay, and this was the abolition of slavery throughout the entire British Empire. Now, there's something that you need to know about this gentleman. First of all, as Elder Michael said, he spent his entire life lobbying for the children of Jacob, which were not his color, right? And secondly, and this is the part that really touched me, he died July the 29th, 1833. And this was 3 days before the third reading of the Act in the House of Commons in the United Kingdom.
Right.
3 days before the Act was actually passed. So this was, wow.
So can you see, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about, right?
It's
The
a
job
pleasure to say
was,
thank you.
yeah, but my point here is the job was finished. You see, now there's no point in hanging around. Let's put up statue if you want. I don't care, right? On the head, but the job is over. Now the spirit's got to go. My job's done. I'm
Yeah.
out of here, right?
Yeah.
Someone knew that it was going to pass in the
It
house.
was incredible. It's like,
Yeah,
you know, instead of like, oh, was he black, white, or you know, maybe it
that
was
didn't matter.
Indian. No, it's irrelevant.
Yeah,
It's a matter of like, you know what? Geez, thank you, God of Israel, for putting this guy in place so that he can start the ball rolling
that's right.
on the abolition of slavery.
Can you imagine, Officer Charmaine, if they put a guy look like me?
We wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. We
I would
were
be
the one
school
in
before I
trouble.
get to the Parliament building.
You know, it's like Oda would say, you know, how are you going to lift yourself up from your own bootstraps? You know, somebody's going to help you.
No,
like,
I didn't even have a pair of boots. Forget the straps.
Okay, Oda Michael. All right. So again, this to me was phenomenal.
Yes.
And you know, as I said before, it was because of him that, for example, the Caribbeans, they actually recognize August 1st as Emancipation Day.
Yes.
And throughout the Caribbean, you know, in Guyana especially, you know, they have a big celebration, you know, they have a big celebration, and it's for Emancipation Day, and it's about being freed based on William Wilberforce's initiatives.
I have a question, a rhetorical question. Why is it that none of this valuable and precious information is taught in February when they have the so-called Black History Month? Why?
It's I think, you know, sometimes the people just like grabbing at straws. You know, you just get a list of all the famous inventors, and it's like, okay, there is so much more to us than inventing, and unfortunately, why have we stopped inventing? That's my question. You know, why have we stopped inventing?
Exactly.
Anyways, but
now's the time. The question is, when I hear the name United Kingdom and United States, what were they united about?
You know, that's probably a good lesson. That's
a good question.
That's a good
because lesson. They share the same spirit, because they worship the same God. It wasn't the God of Israel like we did, but they have a lot. There's an undercurrent there. We talked about some of that way back when the Assyrians moved into what is now called America. At the time, it was just Virginia, and they established that pattern. And today you have the United States. So they underlying foundation is united, but that is secret. They're not allowed to talk about that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So we look at that. As I said, this is something that took place in August. Okay, so something else happened in August. Well, it didn't actually happen in August, but it happened in Virginia, which I thought was really quite interesting. And I think we'll do ourselves a disservice if we just skipped it. So if we can have the next slide, please. Mm-hmm. John Brown. Oh my goodness. Guys, if you've ever read up on this guy, you have to read up on him and come back and tell us what you really thought. But for me, again, I was humbled by the commitment that this gentleman showed to a people that was not his, right? John Brown, he led the anti-slavery volunteers, and his own sons, there were 3 of his sons that actually joined him. You know, he had 7 in total, but 3 of his sons joined him. So he led them during the Bleeding Kansas crisis of the late 1850s, a state-level civil war over whether Kansas should enter the Union as a slave state or free state. Now, eventually, he was tried for treason against the Commonwealth of Virginia. Again, it happened in Virginia. This is where the slaves first landed.
Right.
It wasn't any other state. So look at this. No coincidence here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the murder of 5 men and inciting slave insurrection. So this was what he was tried for. And he was found guilty of all charges and hanged on December the 2nd, 1859. He was the first person to be executed for treason in the history of the United States. And this was because of us. All right, guys, look at him. It was because of us.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not just him. It was him and 6 of his men were hanged. 2 of his sons, remember I said 3 joined, 2 of his sons died during the insurrection, and 1 of his sons survived. But look at that.
It's a very important point for you to make because of the fact
Mm-hmm.
that today we, thanks to our elder, of course, we have built a very strong and powerful foundation whereby the descendants of these men that supported our effort at a time when we could not do it for ourselves, they came through and they did all that they put our interests ahead of their personal interests.
Yes.
So now the least that we can do is to demonstrate to them that their effort, as difficult and as hard and as painful as it was not in vain. So that now we have prepared a place where their descendants could come and hold hands with us and glorify the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It says here that John Brown was no one to play with. He was extremely serious about his mission. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I just, like I said, I'm completely floored and I'm completely humbled when I see people like this working for us. And all I can say is say thank you to the God of Israel, because he's recognizing what he has done for us. He's put these people in place to serve us, to help us. You know, I'm very grateful. And I'm very grateful for it. Yes, he was. That's right. I was going to actually mention that. He was, you know, people look at him, they said he was crazy. They said he was mad. You know, of course he's going to be considered mad. They're going to be, you know, people are wicked. I'm telling you, people are wicked sometimes. You know, they wanted to play him off as a crazy man because his mission, he could not understand why we were enslaved, and he wanted us to be free, and he wanted to arm us to defend ourselves. Oh, and because of that, they said that he was crazy and mad. Is that what you have to be in order to help the children of God? You know,
that is called politics.
Yes,
right?
Of
Because
course.
you paint a negative picture on a good situation, and everybody believes it, and therefore you can take advantage of that opportunity.
Exactly. So that is crazy.
Let's look at the other guy.
Yes.
The next
I'm going to let you run with this one, because I know this is your favorite guy.
This is my favorite guy, Thaddeus Stevens. He was a member of the U.S. State House of Representatives from Pennsylvania, and he was instrumental in getting the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1868. Now, that amendment helped to guarantee citizenship to the children of Jacob and helped to remove the restrictions that were imposed by the Dred Scott case. And a lot of people should investigate that and see where you had a judge that said that a black man had no right, which a white man is bound to respect. But what Thaddeus was saying is that we're all humans together, regardless of appearance. Let's work in harmony and, you know, do what is right in the sight of the world. Now, what is even more interesting about this is that on March 11th, and I like most people to investigate this, he introduced the reparations bill HR 29 during the first session of the 40th U.S. Congress. This bold attempt to secure a restitution has yet to bear fruit, but this was his effort on behalf of the children of slavery to gain some form of reparations, some form of assistance. Sometimes people think about money when they think of reparations, but they could be, you could get land, you could get health care, you could get educational capacity. There's so many different opportunities available, you know, for us to work together. And what all we're saying is there, the question is, can we build what Thaddeus Stevens, John Brown, William Wilberforce, King James, all men that didn't look like us, can we build on what they have established for us? Can we use that privilege to harmonize and to support one another so that we could be a force to reckon with, even on an economics level or an educational level or a
That's
combination
right.
of both. Let us do this.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Yes.
and talking about these different legislations, even though the Slavery Abolition Act was passed in 1833,
Right.
on August the 29th, 1957, we've jumped a few years here. Okay.
Mhm.
So on August the 29th, 1957, Congress passed the Voting Rights Bill of 1957, and this bill was the first major civil rights legislation in more than 75 years, which aimed to address the Black man's civil rights and protect their voting rights. So it was like so many years, 75 years later, where we were actually considered to be able to vote. So this goes into what Thaddeus was doing for us as well. So on August the 28th, so again, the reason I've put this here because it happened in August,
Right.
August 28th, 1963, during the height of the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, as everybody knows, led the march on Washington. The march was the largest civil rights demonstration ever, and this is where he delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech.
Right.
Again, like I said, it was August. And I think what's also important to recognize is that on August the 6th, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Bill, which authorized the suspension of literacy tests and the sending of federal examiners into the South, guaranteeing African Americans the voting rights to vote. So basically, before that, you had to go and do, go through a test before you were even allowed to vote. So that was crazy. It's like, all the obstacles we had to jump and dive through and, crawl under and over and swim across. All of these obstacles were put in our place even after the bill was passed. This is crazy. I know we're still fighting today for different things, but look at where we're coming from and look at some of the things that's been put in place for us. And that's why we're
Yes.
looking at August, because
Yeah.
these things were happening in August. We
This
were
is
able
why
to vote in August.
I'm appreciative of
Wow.
what you expressing, Officer Charmaine, because unless we are told today, we may not have known, we would not have the knowledge, because now we have an obligation not only to the so-called white man, but also to the suffering of the so-called Black man. Now we have privileged positions. We can vote, we can do other things, right? That everybody has the privilege to do. Let us take advantage. But the best way to do it is August as Freedom Month.
Yes, we
That
can really
brings together,
celebrate.
yeah,
Yeah,
that brings
absolutely.
together all of the suffering, if you will, and we can express to the God of Israel an appreciation for the fact that we are here now and we are in a position to do what's right in his sight because we don't have to go through what our forefathers and mothers went through. We need
Right.
to take opportunity of this privilege.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it says here from Andrew, it says, he went against their agenda and against their spirit, but we will triumph in the end because our God is the greatest God. I absolutely agree. I'm not sure who he is, but I completely agree. We
Yes.
will triumph because we do serve the greatest God. We serve the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And I am very deliberate about mentioning his name because I want to make sure that people understand, especially if you're joining us for the first time, that we serve the true and living God, and we serve him based on his name that he gave his children to call him by. So if you believe that you are part of this family and you serve this true and living God, then you will be calling him by his name, which is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And
Yes.
to
So
that, mhm,
Anthony is saying, I'm seeing a pattern. That's what I wanted to hear.
yes,
August
exactly.
represents accomplishments and
Yes,
achievements.
yes, absolutely.
Other months represent oppression and death. So let us move from the oppression and death to accomplishments and achievements because there's something special about August. Maybe because it used to be called back in the day, and I didn't want to get into this. It was called the 6th month back in the day. You know,
Elder Michael.
I'm not going there. I'm just throwing that out. And as you know,
That's
the
okay.
6th is preparation for the 7th, and the 7th is when we worship the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob in
Yes.
spirit and in truth.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
In theory, yes. The
yes,
6th month is preparation. The 7th month is about worshiping. I
yes.
completely agree with you on that. But the going into the technicalities
I'm
of
not going
August,
there.
let's not go there, please.
No.
Okay. It's a good one to go into, but not today. Not
Yeah,
today.
that's right.
Okay.
So that pattern is what we want to take advantage of. We want
Yes.
to use, because
Yes.
it's highly spiritual. So
Yes.
let's use
And
August
I
for the privilege that it is.
and I think that's exactly your point, Elder Michael. I think, Elder Michael has spent the week just looking at, the how this plays into August Freedom Month, and how we worship our God of Israel,
Yes,
and just coming out of Feast of Dedication, and he's trying to tie this, and there is a pattern there,
there is
but
a
I think
pattern.
it's a little higher than what we're wanting to go into right now, right? We want to establish, you know from a practical point of view, that August is Freedom Month. It makes absolute sense because it marks the beginning and the end of our enslavement.
Yeah,
It does.
it's true.
We didn't make it up. The dates are there, and this is what we're showing you.
That's right.
You know?
There's so much positiveness that
Yeah,
occurred. Yes, we started in
absolutely.
August, but you see, we had to start there so that maybe when we reflect, we could think about it,
Yeah,
right? And now see how we can move forward in that month,
yeah.
using that month as a foundation. Let's step and go forward. And that's the key. That's what I like.
So at this point, we've gone through a few dates, not too many, but we've gone through a few dates.
Right.
And at this point in history, you can see that the black men, for lack of a better term, had done everything to regain freedom and be treated with dignity and respect.
Right.
This stemmed from the slave revolts, riots, peace marches, and political movements, and everything in between, to the
Yes.
passing of legislation in Parliament. However, we know that the black man is still a crime in 2020, right? We're still a crime, unfortunately, but this is something that we are trying to change.
Right.
And as I mentioned right from the very beginning, we have an organization called Remember the 400. In 2019, marked the 400th anniversary of the children of slavery in the Americas. And this also includes those guys in England. We're not leaving you out. Remember, a lot of these bills were instrumental because of what took place in the UK, right? So it just so happened that this commemoration took place in the city of Hampton. Remember the 400 partnered with the city of Hampton in Virginia, and there was an amazing event for 2 days. There was the Iron More, which is really youth driven, and one thing we haven't really focused on today, which we want to make note of now, is that we need to make sure that our youth understand this so that they can continue to drive this vehicle in the future. So this is very much about our youth. It's not just about us knowing this, that, and the other, which is great. It's important to make sure that our youth understand this as well. And if I Am More or our youth have been on many of the social media platforms on a regular basis over the last few years, talking about slavery, talking about Remember the 400, talking about our forefathers, talking about the things that we need to do in order to move ahead. They've had discussions with many different people, like authors and politicians, people in high professions, talking about what we can do to change, what's going on, and this is for all of us to really rally behind, to push them, to encourage them that they can continue driving this vehicle, because we can't drive it forever. We need them to continue.
And one of the guys that has stepped up, one of the politicians, is on the next slide. He
Mhm.
has given us an opportunity to even do exactly all that you've been saying, Officer Charmaine. So let's look at the next slide.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Seafield says, now we need to stop using their weapons to bring them down, but our power of spirituality to lift us up. I love that. I'm going
Amen.
to repeat. I'm going to read that again. Now we need to stop using their weapons, the guns that we, etc.,
Right.
and even the propaganda machine, right? We need to stop using their weapons to bring them down, but use our power or spirituality to lift us up.
Right.
Yes, let's focus on lifting up our spirituality. I love that statement. That's
Mhm.
what we need to be doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not here to, man's creation, man's destruction, all that fun stuff. We're not here to fight that. We're here to build us up,
That's right.
especially our spirituality and our connection back to our God. But yes, go ahead, Elder Michael.
Yeah. So Mayor John Turry of Toronto, Canada, and he is following in the path of John Simcoe back in the
Mm-hmm,
day. On
mm-hmm,
behalf of Toronto City Hall, he proclaimed August again, the,
mm-hmm,
the 2019, as an Emancipation Month of the city
mm-hmm.
of Toronto. So
Yes.
it gives us then, even from a political perspective, an opportunity for those
Mm-hmm.
of us who didn't think that Canada was doing its part. Yes, the mayor of Toronto has stepped up and has given us that privilege. So we don't need now to go and rally everyone. We've explained it from a biblical perspective, we explained it from a historical perspective, and now it is here from a political perspective. All of
And
these things coming together.
this is partly our initiative. We sent letters all over, all
Yes,
over Canada to various parliament buildings, what have you, um, for them to recognize
right.
this is Freedom Month, and
And
this is the result of the efforts that we've put forward.
the
And
result of
even
our Elder
even
Shadrach's effort and his slightest.
let's okay, before we go there, you're absolutely correct. First of all, we just want to, as you mentioned, that this is an initiative that actually matched that what John Graves Simcoe did.
Yes,
Yeah, so it's based on his act as well, which was really very powerful because it brings everything together, right?
right.
Uh, let's go to the next slide. I just want to seal this. This actually should have gone before, but this is looking at the 400 years. If we go to Genesis 15:13-14, it says here, and he said unto Abram, this is the God of Israel speaking unto Abram. This is just before his name was changed to Abraham. But he
Exactly.
said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And we wanted to put this point in because going back to what Mayor John Tory's done, he's recognized our emancipation after 400 years in the year 2019. Right? This is
Exactly.
what we want people to recognize.
Yes.
In the year 2019, and this was for the month of August, right?
Yes.
So, and this is marking 400 years, and this is different to what took place during the time of Egypt, because if you read the scriptures, that was 430 years.
Right. The first thing.
Yes, the
Yeah.
first Egypt was 430 years. This is specific to us. And this was a brief moment that Abram experienced this, only to find out that his children, and this prophecy is about now, here and now, right? 400 years. We just came out of this. And
Yes.
also that nation whom they shall serve, I judge. And afterward they shall come out with great substances. So things are still in the place, still things are still working. So,
Yes.
just be patient, make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, which is worshiping our God, serving our God, keeping the laws, the statutes and the commandments, keeping the Sabbath day, the new moons, all the feasts that we're supposed to keep, glorifying his name, because there's still more to come.
Yes.
This is just the beginning.
And in the process, we can hold hands with Elder Shadrach and Priest Doreen and Priest Tyrone and celebrate the
Yeah.
Act 400. Yes.
So let's bring the next slide since you've gone there.
Yes.
The next slide. So we mentioned Elder Shadrach a lot, but this guy was the guy that actually dreamt this up. Like I said, 40 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah.
40 years ago, he's been on about the children of slavery, about 1619, and 2019. He's been on this for such a long time, about the 400 years. He's been working on this, and eventually his vision came by the Remember the 400 organization. The Remember the 400 Foundation, which is a non-profit organization, and it's based in Canada, in the United States, and in the UK. It's all the same thing, guys. If you've been following, you'll see that there's a beautiful pattern here. There's nothing that's a coincidence. It's a beautiful pattern. So Remember the 400 has been established in these different locations, and it's headed by our very own priest Doreen, who's the president of this organization. She's an amazing woman. She's driving the youth to, she's rallying the youth to make sure that they are out there doing what they're supposed to do. And she's supported by her vice president, which is our very own priest Tyrone. So
to your point also, I want our listeners and our viewers to really put everything in perspective.
Yes.
Because when you see,
thank you, Felicia,
for your donation.
Thank you.
When you see the Remember the 400 Foundation in action, I want you to think of our contribution to the world today. Now, all of what we did, we laid the foundation for the United States. We laid the foundation for the United Kingdom and Britain, right? For their, what they call it, the Industrial Revolution. We can go on and on. But my point here, and I've made this point from the beginning, we did all of this with one hand tied behind our backs as slaves. Now, just imagine what we can do with both hands stretched forth to heaven, to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Love that.
Hands, as I said, with Officer Charmaine, with Elder Shadrach, with Priest Doreen, Priest Tyrone, Priest Ando, Priest Freddie, the entire priesthood, all of us together, and the congregation of Israel doing the same thing. Can you imagine how much we could achieve? You won't see nothing yet, ladies and gentlemen. The best is yet to come, but we have to come together. We have to unite as one body, because even the body of Christ will do what has to be done, but we have to provide that vessel.
Anthony says that Remember the 400 flag raising tomorrow in St. Louis and New Jersey. So guys, look out for that.
That's
and Remember
right.
the 400 flag will also be raised in the UK too. Amen to that. So we're raising this flag, guys. So you've got to look out, listen out. And if you do have any information, make sure you share it with your friends and your family, because we want to prepare you to enter into this amazing month and make it the best that it's ever been. We're entering August with purpose and meaning. It's more than just who invented what, where, whatever. It's about our enslavement and our freedom.
That's
and it's
right.
about serving our God and remembering the things that he did and the people that he's put in place to help us. We are truly appreciative. We are truly appreciative of our elder and his vision to bring this about. We are truly appreciative to all those people that have dedication and dedicated their time to making sure that this is happening. We have amazing workers in the UK, such as Minister Charmaine and Angela and the whole team out there. We have, Elder Jeffrey and, Elder Kurt, and, we have all these amazing people, young people, old people. Yeah, everybody's like full force,
Yes.
Please, if you don't know them, reach out to them now and, see what you can do to help. See what you can do to help. And this is what it's about. Let's make August the best month ever.
And this is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much more that we have
so much more.
But we have to show the God of Israel that we have not forgotten him. For those of you who don't know how to follow these instructions, we invite you to come on home. Come, let us share with you that wisdom.
Yes.
We made mistakes in the past. We've suffered. We've been punished. Now it is time for freedom. It's time for the month of August. It's time for us to get to know our Father again and to respect his name, because therein is our prosperity. Therein is our confidence. Therein is our wisdom. Let us join with Elder Shadrach and do what is right in the sight of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Let us embrace the leadership of Elder Andel and the Supreme Council and do what is right, so that, because the world, believe it or not, they are looking to us for leadership. They're not going to come and tell you that.
No, they're not. They're not.
They are following your pattern today. Trust
me. There are many municipalities within Ontario that's actually doing Freedom Month, emancipation. They call it emancipation.
Here in Brampton, they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's amazing. It's happening.
It's happening.
And guys, get on the wagon right now, because we're writing history. They don't know it, but we're writing history. We shall keep a log. We have Elder Castrilli. We will keep a log. Don't worry about it. We will keep a log. So
with that, we want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us today. And this is just the beginning. We're going to come back with more information.
Yes.
And to build on this knowledge.
Yes, absolutely. This is Black History Month. This is our Freedom Month. Like you say, Black History. It is our Freedom Month. And we have a lot more to talk about with regards to our history.
That's correct. Yes. And how you can.
Hello. I hope you are enjoying our program so far. We are so thrilled you have decided to join us for today's event. If this is your first time, go ahead and hit that subscription button, and don't forget to click the notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all of our upcoming videos. Also, please like, comment, and share our videos. We truly appreciate it. We are so passionate about sharing our Israelite culture, and we welcome your generosity in helping us to reach more people. So please feel free to leave us donations. If you are thinking about joining us and would like to learn more, fill out the form in the description below, and one of our team members from the Welcome Committee will be in contact with you shortly. I thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you soon. And with that, I bid you peace, love, truth, prosperity, and